I've got to a point now where I don't have to assess what colour I want. I just grab something that is value correct, but is just fun. So.
All right, fellow artists, I want to introduce Kathy Ellem, and she is in Australia right now. And so her time, it's 9 o'clock, and our time, it's 7 in the morning. So Kathy, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I have to say, and I haven't said this to you yet, but I'm an equestrian artist, and you have been one of my favorite equestrian artists that I've come across, and you're so inspiring. I teach atmospheric perspective, and you are spot on with atmospheric perspective.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So have you painted your entire life, done art your entire life?
No, I when I finished high school, well, after a gap year, I came back and did a biology degree. So that's my formal training. I married a bloke that lives on a farm, so what we call cattle cocky. So I went from living in northeast Victoria, which is all cute and cool and sort of very well protected and lots of rainfall, to living up in southwest Queensland, which is what everybody knows Australia as being outback. So so I spent probably 10 years flipping around trying different things. So I tried teaching financial analysis, naturopathy. I did a lot of different things, and then I started painting because I had my first child, and I just needed something to do because we were living on the farm, and I was sort of going a little bit crazy, there by myself most of the time. So I picked up a brush, started with folk art, and then just got into painting. And yeah, it's just sort of, it's been this itch. So we hit this like 3 or 4 year mark, and Chris was still waiting for me to kind of like give up, because I'd done that with so many other things. But this itch started in my head, and I've never been able to actually like not want to paint more. Like, there's so many ideas, and the more I paint, the more their ideas sort of bloom. So yeah, it's just an itch that's never gone.
Well, your paintings are absolutely beautiful. Now, do you have gallery representation, or?
Well, I actually represent myself. Since after living in Queensland, we came back down to Victoria. We sold the farm that we had up there and came down here. And I actually was lucky enough to buy a gallery in the main street of my hometown. So it's a cute little tourist gold mining town. Because I lived so remotely up in Queensland, I would just trawl the internet looking for artists and things, and then seeing if they held workshops or if they taught anything anywhere. And I would just hop in my car and go and just do whatever I could whenever I could. So probably for the first 4 or 5 years, I did at least 2 workshops a year, and just practiced the rest of it. I had a lot of help in the early days with a guy that took me under his wing and taught me how to do these sort of dusty outback ones, which were sort of like, they're my bread and butter type of painting. So if I need to make sure I get sales, I'll do a few of those and have them sort of there. And I'd say I've been doing oil painting for 19 years, but I didn't get into it until, because I'd had the kids, and that was sort of very stop-start for the first 3 years. So
Sure.
I'd say I started getting very serious about it probably 15 years ago. So that's my studio. The house is just off screen to the left-hand side. It's only, 10 metres away, a few yards. It's a 2-story box, basically. It was a tobacco drying kiln originally, and someone had got in and bricked it and converted it into like just a workspace, and it's been perfect. It was like this dream come true when we moved onto this farm. to have this studio space all just purpose, seems purpose built for, as ideal as it for an artist. It's so cute. So this is the Crack Up Sisters, and I had the pleasure of meeting them when I went to Queensland last time, and they are performers and just larger than life and so vibrant and colourful and joyful, and all they want to do is celebrate life and humour and entertaining people. And I got to speak to them and just was so inspired, particularly by the central lady. And so this painting, she sent me this selfie, and I thought, how cool is this for a concept for a painting? And did this painting and sent it off to an art show, and it won me a $10,000 prize up in Winton, which is in sort of probably central Queensland. I want to capture the person doing the thing that they love, or being involved in something and showing some kind of life, whereas when I look at people when they're sitting for portraits, their faces just drop, and you lose all of their character, I feel. And that's why I love this kind of portrait, I guess, and I've just got to find a groove with it. So, yeah. For me, even though there's a lot of sheep in there and they are sort of part of the story, the biggest major part of this story is actually that gum tree. It's been blown over, it's got branches that have broken off. And for me, the older and gnarlier and sort of lumpier the gum trees are, the more gorgeous they are to paint. Whereas humans tend to, when you're painting people, we like to paint pretty young things, and pretty young gum trees aren't great subjects. So I just find it very interesting. So this is the gallery in Beechworth. At that point, I was teaching a workshop, so I had all my students' work, sort of laid out around the gallery. But ordinarily, it's just set up as a exhibition space for myself. And I had initially, when I first bought the gallery, I thought about inviting other artists, but I didn't want to have to say no to friends, and I just felt that I should try to keep up with my own work. So it's definitely kept me on my toes to try and keep good quality work in there and have a nice, interesting display space, which is why I've also got that plasma cutting stuff, which we'll talk about later, I guess. So this is my son when he was a lot cuter than what he is now. He's a teenager now. So it's just another one. I guess it's another people painting. So very, very rarely do I do them, but they seem to come out nice when I do actually get a subject that works for me. This was called Edges. The Edges, I felt like my work was very rough. And I know this, in saying that, this is a very rough painting, I guess, in a way, but I'd spent a lot of time just trying to work my edges and make sure that I didn't have as much mess everywhere, and just deliberately make marks where I wanted people to look, and then soften other areas down, or, work the edges so that they're not really in your face. So this painting was in my mind. The minute I took that reference photo, I just knew this was going to be a painting, and I almost had the concept. It doesn't happen to me very often. It's really rare. And I just wish I could show you that beard. That's got every colour of the rainbow in it. But if you mix the colours just perfectly and get the tone correct, the colours don't matter. So I had a lot of fun in there. So whenever I start to stumble, and if I've ever got a piece that's not looking right, I always go back to looking at my drawing. So is the shape correct? And is the value correct for that shape? So, and I've found so many times, and I've been able to prove it to myself over and over again, that the colours don't matter. I've got to a point now where I don't have to assess what colour I want. I just grab something that is value correct, but is just fun. That is probably one of my favourites as well. So that one's called Straight Six. What I did in this painting was the far left horses, the one on the far left, he was, value-wise, the darkest dark there is not as dark as the darks that are in the main three horses. And then the guy that's next to him, so the second horse in, he's slightly darker, but not as dark as the darkest dark. So I measured everything as I stepped across, it was interesting to go to this junk workshop that we did years ago. And the partner of one of the other participants came and he said, oh, you should try plasma cutting. Forget those tin snips. That's terrible. So he turned up the next day with his plasma cutter and I never looked back. Like it was so much fun. I just started hacking into things and my husband was a bit worried. You know, we're on a farm, so it's good, but he was a bit concerned that I'd be cutting up some of his, you know, precious metal pieces that are around the place. So I've got a Kathy pile that I'm only allowed to dive into the Kathy pile, but I've blown up 2 since I started doing this and have learned a lot about plasma cutting, but it's just so much fun. It's a hand piece that you has a little trigger on it and it comes out of a little copper tip and the air compressor blows and the electricity creates a flame. So the flame comes out and it's like very fine line that it'll cut. So because it's melting the metal, the flame melts and the air compressor is blowing, the metal gets blown back. Probably about 18 months ago, I just thought, oh, I'm not going to bother doing any more plasma cutting. I'll just focus on painting because I just couldn't keep up with my painting. And I just thought, no, I'll just do a couple of pieces and put them in the gallery. And I just started doing more and more. And I'm just finding that when I let myself go, the designs are becoming more intricate and more elaborate. So what happened with my art is now happening with my plasma cutting. So my ability and skills and what I'm exploring has expanded. And I never thought that would happen with this. I don't know why I would think that, but so yeah, just getting the designs, getting a lot finer. So the distance between the lines is, I'm getting a lot more detail into the works.
Well, Kathy, it's probably time for you to start thinking about bedtime.
That's right. Back to work tomorrow.
It's time for me to start painting.
That's it. Getting into it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for taking the time from the other side of the world